Hello and welcome everyone to another energy update with Suzanne Worthley, energy practitioner, where I share actual client session kind of details so that we can all learn from one another. I'm so thrilled and honored to have so many great people that I work with that are willing to, on an anonymous basis, share their stories because everybody can learn something from somebody else's story if we choose to. So whenever I'm sharing these online, it is all about just taking what resonates and tossing the rest. And sometimes, you can get a lesson, a golden nugget, and sometimes it's just sheer entertainment, and that's fine too. So this particular client that I worked with earlier today is such a sweet, dear thing. I've known her for quite some time. She has the most amazing story in so many different ways. And a couple years back, I was working with her because she was this gal that was at a point in her life where she was looking forward to retirement. She and her husband, partner, were really working very hard at turning their lake home into their home for retirement purposes. And they had put a ton of time and effort and money into it. And, she's an incredible caregiver. Most of her life, she's been doing, and working on behalf of everybody and everything else. And this was going to finally, in her opinion, be her time to kind of kick back and to relax and to have, all the fruits of her labors, like a lot of us think, right? Well, lo and behold, it became quite a sad twist to the story in that she and her husband were on their way up to the new home and moving a lot of the last minute materials and kind of like putting the final touches on it, and super excited to be there. And sadly got into a horrific car accident where they got T-boned, and her husband died in the actual car accident. And it was a really super, super sad story. I remember working with her at that point in time because I actually did go back and do a healing with her during that time and channeled her husband during the process of his crossing over period, and did indeed get some information from him from a soul contractual basis that he had an option to either stay and or go during that car accident. And this was a pretty profound message that I wanted to share because indeed, if you choose to believe in soul contracts, which I do and a lot of my clients do, we are here contracted with those that make a big difference in our life, either in a positive and negative way. And when our contracts are done, we do leave this planet, and those contracts will still affect those that are left. And in this particular case, I thought it was super interesting that he actually had a free will choice. That was the information we got, at least. He had a free will choice to either stay in a very incapacitated way, meaning that the accident itself was going to be extremely detrimental to his ongoing health and wellness. And her caregiver, duties would have tripled and magnified. And or he had a choice to go. And I heard clearly during the channeling that he chose in all loving ways to go because he wanted her to actually have this time in her life to find herself, to free herself, and to move forward. And this often happens when we have an exit plan from one of our loved ones. Now, she obviously went through a grieving period, but she handled this in my opinion, beautiful way. I mean, she really felt the profound love of the exit plan. And I think that she did a great job through that grief process. And now we're going to fast forward a little bit because I hadn't heard from her maybe in about 2 years or so since this happened. And lo and behold, I get a phone call because her mother is in hospice and dying when she booked the appointment. And by the time we actually had the appointment online, her mother had already died. And this wasn't a horrible situation in that the mother was 97 years old, but we're always going to grieve. It's always going to be tough. We're always going to be sad when we lose our parent, obviously. So the healing that we were doing online with regard to that was, part of moving that grief through. But again, she really understood soul contracts, exit plans, etc. But what I want to tie into this story as well for an energy update is that she got into another relationship, which is a beautiful thing. She found another man and a partner that she is with right now and living with. And in these older years of life, she is once again finding herself being a caretaker. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. And a lot of us feel that we come to this earth planet to be caretakers. And yes, indeed, that may be your contract. But it's important for us to know that when we're having these massive transitions in life, that we don't become what I call pen pushers. And this is a weird subject, or weird, maybe a weird description. But what I do with my clients when they're this kind of a person is I bring out a pen and I put it on the table, the actual table when we're working, and I lay it down and I said, this is what oftentimes a caregiver does when they have multiple opportunities to go through their life and find another reason to do something. I'm going to be happy after this. I'm going to be happy when we get married. I'm going to be happy when my mother's funeral services are over. I am going to slow down and take some time for myself when whatever. And I put it like this on my desk when I talk to my clients, and I push the pen and I push it out, and then I run towards the pen and I run towards the pen, and then the pen pushes and rolls again, and I run towards the pen and it pushes and rolls again. When we have this visual in our head, it's really easy to see how we go, oh my goodness, if I can just get to that pen, which signifies a finish line, if I can get to that job promotion, if I can get to being married, if I can get to that, that child, that burying my mother, that whatever, if I can get to, then everything's going to be okay. But what happens is this little bugger rolls again across the table, and then we chase it and we chase it and we chase it. And especially when we are the kind of a person that is a caregiver, which I'm not knocking, mind you, we are always chasing the roll of the pen. We are always chasing the next deadline. We are always thinking just this one more thing. And what happens then is we deplete our own energy. What happens then is we continually put everybody else in front of us. Now, I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing. I'm not sitting online here. In fact, take what resonates and toss anything that doesn't overall. But what I'm saying is, especially in these situations, two things are important. Know that the pen and the chasing, and it's a weird symbol, but I get it. It's just a metaphor. Is never going to stop rolling across that desk, because there's always going to be something else. There's always going to be something else. So what I try to tell my clients here is that just stop having a finish line. Stop having an accomplishment to get to the space and the place of finally you taking time for you. It is important for each one of us to take time for us. And in this particular client case, again, she's got this new partner. And I said, how is it for you to have quiet time? And she said, well, this particular person that I'm with now has a really tough time with me taking alone time, because he always wants to be with me. He wants to be with me all the time. Well, that's fine and dandy and cute and awesome and sweet. But really, what that means is that person also needs to understand quiet time. They need to understand that there is no abandonment in quiet time. That needs to figure out themselves as well, in terms of, I also maybe want to look at some quiet time and why that is comfortable or not for me. And this isn't judging anybody. This is not saying anybody's doing something right or wrong, but each one of us human beings is responsible for filling our own quotient of gasoline or self-love, so that this body, this human vehicle of divine source energy, has some gasoline. And then we are responsible for our gasoline tank, which is considered our aura. And if we are not doing that work, and if we are a continual caretaker that is always going and pushing and doing and being there for everybody else, my gas is on zero and my tank is destroyed. So this is something very important to look at. This is quiet time. I don't even care if it's 10 minutes. It's just about, mini moments. It's about mini moments. We can take mini moments throughout our day. We can reground and reset ourselves and refill ourselves in seriously seconds, if not minutes. We can go away around the corner and rebalance and reshift and realign to a space and a place where I am contained in love and light for myself, on behalf of myself, before I bring myself to the table of caregiving for another. So, this can happen in many different ways. In her ways, it was in family, it was in friends, it was in partnership, it was in grieving, it was in hospice with her mother. So, her gas tank was on zero. And so these are things that we do quite easily and quite simply under an umbrella of thinking that we're helping everyone else. And yes, Indeed, we are helping everyone else. And yes, this is part of the human experience, is being there for everyone else. But first and foremost, especially when you're the caregiver, it is important and critical almost to fill your own tank first so that you bring a good you to the table. And then remember, if you choose, this little kind of like description of chasing the pen. When we find ourselves wanting another, ending, when I get to this, it'll be my time. When I get to that, it'll be my time. And this particular client was so fascinating because she, of all people, learned that I can push that deadline when I retire, when we get that beautiful home, when my husband and I finally are in our special place, everything is great. And then boom, in the blink of an eye, her husband was gone, as was her dream house. It all changed. So yes, it's tragic, but it's a beautiful lesson for us to go, please stay in the moment with gratitude and joy and understand that those finish lines of when I will be happy are really quite detrimental. And it is important for us to find happiness in any way we choose, if we choose, how we choose, when we choose, on an ongoing basis, so we bring a better us to the party. So hope that resonates a little bit. She's doing great though. She's doing awesome. And I am so thrilled that she let me share a little bit of her tragedy and a little bit of her pain and a lot of her love and a lot of her tenacity. So until next, everybody, cosmic hugs.